Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 5000 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 5000. Enjoy!
From the Kansas City Sports Update Studios, welcome to Kingdom Radio, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs. Brought to you by Arrowhead Update. Join Chris and Richard on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Player FM, CastBox, and all third-party applications. Check us out on Facebook platforms such as Kansas City Sports Update and Arrowhead Update. And if you cannot find us there, Google or search Kingdom Radio and Kansas City Chiefs, and you will find us. Welcome to the Kingdom. Kingdom.
How are we doing, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome to Kingdom Radio. I am your host, Richard Smith. And hey, today we have a really awesome show in store. I'm excited for this one. We typically just touch base on Chiefs news, and we cover the games, and we post-game, pre-game analysis. We do live shows as well. Today's a special day. We have JJ Birden coming to the show today to talk with us about his career and what led him to the Kansas City Chiefs and playing for one of the best Chiefs teams to ever take the field and also take passes from Joe Montana. There's a lot to talk about today with JJ Birden. Have him here, coming up here in just a few minutes. I'm really excited to hear his perspective. And there's some questions, from around Chiefs Kingdom and from fans around the NFL that are, going to get their chance to ask JJ a question and see what his answer is. So I'm really excited to get this going, and let's see if we can't go ahead and get him on the line. Let's do this. We are calling JJ Birden right now. Excuse me for the pause. We'll just wait for him to pick up here, and here we go. Get this rolling. Hey, JJ Birden, how we doing?
We're doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Welcome to Kingdom Radio. I'm happy to have you on the air. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, well, my week was good. We had a nice day off. Kids are playing, and we're all just getting together, but everything is good.
Perfect. I'll tell you what. I've been excited to get you on the show, and even my co-host Chris, he couldn't be here today, but he prepared some questions for you to. I don't know. We just want to take a walk down JJ's life and what it was like to be a Kansas City Chief and the whole nine. I kind of sent you a little preview of what we were going to talk about, and if it's all right with you,
Yes.
I'd love to hop right in.
Yeah, can you hear me clearly? I'm on my phone. I want to make sure you can hear me.
Yes, you're just fine. If you could speak up just a little bit, that would be great. But otherwise, yes, connection is great. I do want to start out by asking, we're going to start right here in high school. As an undersized wide receiver with blazing speed, How did you end up at the University of Oregon playing football, especially after most scouts were saying that you'd possibly play Division III football?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I was the number one high school wide receiver. I was all-state. Had a really good year, but 5'9", 133 was not very appealing to Division I schools as far as football. So no Division I school recruited me, and it was your smaller schools. And I kind of took it personal, and I developed a chip on my shoulder and just said, well, I'll show them. And I had confidence that I could get a full ride in track. I knew I had that ability. So as I was being recruited in track by a lot of Division I schools, I would always ask them, so what do you think about me playing football one year? And all the Pac-10 schools and everyone who recruited me said no, except for Oregon. Oregon said, if you come run for us, we will do what we can to support your efforts to get a tryout the second year at Oregon. Okay. So I went to Oregon, and I ran the first year, and then about the springtime when we were supposed to be at the weight room, I would sneak off to the spring football practices and watch practice. And
nice.
It was my way, Rick, of trying to evaluate their talent and say, okay, are these guys really that much bigger than me? And it took about 3 practices, and I realized, okay, I can do this. Now I just got to somehow get on the field. And so the very next day, I stood on the practice field on the goalpost, by the goalpost, waiting for someone to come and kick me off the field because you weren't supposed to be on the field.
Wow.
Yeah. And so then Rich Brooks, the head coach, at the end of practice, he comes all the way down the field. He had seen me, and he's like, Birden, I know who you are. You've been watching practice. He goes, what are you doing out here? And I told him I wanted to play. And I just kept asking him to give me a shot. And he said, well, come to my office. Let's talk about it. And we talked about the next day. He had already talked to the track coach. And the track coach said it was up to Rich Brooks. And Rich said, we're going to give you a tryout. We're going to let you come to camp this fall. You can walk on, and we'll see. And that's all he said. And he didn't say, hey, when you make the team. It was like, we'll see.
Wow.
And that's all I wanted, Rick. I wanted an opportunity.
Right.
And I remember going into fall camp the first day and looking at the depth chart. There were about 13, 14 wide receivers. I was like at the bottom, 13 or 14.
Gosh. Back against the wall.
Yeah, and right away I'm thinking, okay, how fast can I move up the depth chart? I saw it as a challenge.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Gosh, and obviously you took every bit of that opportunity and that challenge and have embraced it. And even, the things that you're doing after football, which we'll touch base on that a little bit later. I have to say, I'm in my mid-30s, and as a kid, when I grew up and I really, really started watching football and getting into the Chiefs, there's a certain time period, between like 8 and 10 when you really started getting interested in remembering stuff. And that's where I was. And I remember watching you, taking passes from Joe Montana and Steve DeBerg, and, your blazing speed. You were just, you had this other level of speed that was so much fun to watch. And you could take the top off of any defense at any moment. So what was it like for you to, know you were coming into the NFL with that type of speed, and especially being undersized? Like, how was that challenge? You had an advantage,
Yes. And it really helped because I didn't have the size, obviously 5'10", 157. So I realized my competitive advantage was speed and quickness. I had the ability to run fast. I had the quickness. But there was a learning curve because I can remember my very first training camp. I'm in Cleveland going against Hanford Dixon, all-pro quarterback, who I'm much faster than. But technique-wise, I struggled getting by him. And so I realized that I have to learn how to master the technique and the skill sets of a wide receiver, then combine that with my speed and quickness, and now I have the perfect combination. So it took some time, a lot of practice, a lot of sacrifice and discipline, but I finally got it to where when I lined up on a line and I saw a DB and I looked in their eyes, I knew they were worried about my speed.
Right, and that's such a huge advantage. And, you know, me, honestly, growing up, playing sports, I had speed as well. I was undersized, but I had speed too, so I understand the confidence behind that. And so let's kind of talk about the Olympic trials, because look, you were drafted in the midst of qualifying for the 1988 Olympic trials. When the Cleveland Browns came calling with Marty Schottenheimer. What was your decision process there? You know, choosing between the NFL or the Olympics, that had to be one of the biggest choices of your entire life.
It truly was, and it was a very uncomfortable conversation with Marty, because when Marty called me, so I'm excited, okay, I get drafted, and then he's like, well, we would love for you to come out here early and start training, and I'm thinking, I said, Marty, well, I'm getting ready for Pac-10s, I'm the champion, and I'm going to nationals, I'm going to Olympic trials, and he just kind of was like, well, hey, this is the NFL, and I remember getting off the phone, thinking of like, oh my goodness, this is really going to be a difficult decision, because to be honest, I had no desire to play in the NFL. That was not the goal.
Right.
It was track. That was the passion. It was the Olympics. See if I can create something there. But the decision was made for me, because 2 weeks later, or a week later, I go to the Cleveland Browns mini camp and I tear up my ACL ligament.
Oh, no.
The third practice.
Gosh.
So the decision was made. Track was done, and to be honest, that was why I started pursuing the NFL, because I had no choice. Now, it worked out in the end.
Right.
Here's the $1 million question. Had I not got hurt, would I have played in the NFL? I honestly don't think I would have. I think I would have pursued track.
Wow, and it's those turning points like that, and it's crazy, the level of significance, no matter what it is, an injury, a decision, but it is crazy that an injury in turn, turned your vision towards the NFL. And ultimately, created your legacy within, 2 to 3 organizations, and I'm sure it had to have been a lot of fun, but I will say, I'm sorry to say that your Olympic run ended, but I guess looking back on it, how do you feel about that now?
Oh, well, yeah, it's all worked out in the end.
Right.
It really did, and I think that was really, for me, though, that was a very monumental moment in my life, because I had never experienced such a setback, a adversity. Mm-hmm. But I learned something quickly in life, is that in times of failures, those are opportunities for breakthroughs. And breakthroughs are when you make that decision that turns into something special. And it's either you can make the decision that tragedy is going to take you down and take you out, or you make the decision that's going to take you to bigger and better things. And that was the decision I made when I was sitting on that table with a torn ACL. I said, I'm going to come back bigger, stronger, faster, and I'm going to do something special. So it started with a decision, and then I started putting in the work, and the rest is history.
And I'll tell you what, no matter what the scenario, it just takes putting one foot in front of the other and making progress every day. And if that's your dream and that's your passion, nothing will get in your way. And you obviously showed that. I have to ask you, though, what was your event in track and field? What was your bread and butter, if you could run an event right now?
Yeah, I was a long jumper. I was 26.2 in the long jump. I ran the high hurdles too. It was like a 13.8. High hurdles were really high for me, 42 inches.
Yes.
And I ran the first leg of the 4x1 relay. But the long jump was really my specialty, and that's the one thing I have to admit, because that was the beginning of my senior year where I was popping off low 26s back to back, and right. I always wonder what I would have jumped, because as a long jumper, and I don't know if you know this, you start making some big fouls. I started getting some 27-foot fouls, and so even though they're fouls, mm-hmm. You have the potential to go a lot further.
Right.
So there's always that curiosity, man, would I have done 27 plus feet, and I always wonder what that would have been like.
Oh man, see, and I can understand that too. It just being the competitive nature in you, and that's something that I have too. It's no matter what, you're pushing for more, and like you said, that's just like hitting the furthest foul ball you've ever hit in your life.
Yeah.
All you want to do is hit that furthest home run you've ever hit. So yeah, that's completely true, and just drives that competitive nature even more. And hey, and with that being said, I got to ask you this too. You being as competitive as you are, in your prime, would you win a foot race between you and Tyreek Hill?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good one. In my prime, would I have beat Tyreek Hill in a foot race? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I want to say yes, the answer would be no. I would have not beat Tyreek in my prime. Because Tyreek, the fastest 40 I ever ran was a 4.33. 100 meters, I didn't really run it, and I know Tyreek ran low 110s. I could not run a 110, or 10-1 is I think what he ran.
Wow.
And he's just faster. I mean, I've never seen anyone, a receiver, that have the combination of exceptional speed, quickness, and explosion. He has the trifecta, and it's very rare, but yeah, I love watching him run because I so can appreciate his speed, and it's kind of cool to see somebody who's actually faster than you run.
It's something else, and he's a freak of nature, and it's fun to have a player like that on the Kansas City Chiefs. But when you think of the impact he has compared to the impact that you had, on the '90s Chiefs, the impact is similar. So it's nice to give that comparison. And another one I'd like to compare you to is the Dante Hall, the speed, the flashy. And Dante Hall was more of a return man. But I put all three of you in that category together. Thank you. Yeah. So Dante was very shifty, very explosive, very quick. Just the ability to cut and stop on a dime and reaccelerate was very impressive. And it's so funny because we're all built a little different. It's like, I mean, I might be tall. I think I was taller than Dante. I think Derrick is about my height or maybe a little shorter. But they're so much bigger and stockier than me. And that's the one thing I'm jealous about because I was at 157 and I could not carry the kind of weight that Derrick has and that Dante has, but they carry it well and they don't lose their speed, So right.
Our body types were so different,
Wow, and it's weird to, I don't want to say it's weird, it's a different perspective hearing you say it like that, because as a fan, we don't typically think of, when you think of the smaller guys, just how much, 10 pounds can make a difference. And so I love this perspective. It's really nice. I like that you're giving the fans this type of perspective as well.
Well, what's interesting
is
I used to weigh myself with my helmet and my full uniform, and I would go up to 177. It would put 20 pounds on me. So
nice.
Imagine what that's like for someone who's a little framed guy who's now carrying an extra 20 pounds running down the field. It can make a difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can just imagine how much faster you would have been without those pads.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about your NFL career here. I'm really interested to hear some of these answers. Who was the most integral player or coach who really helped you get acclimated to the pro game?
I would say Coach Al Saunders. Al Saunders, I learned so much. He was my wide receiver coach with the Kansas City Chiefs. In Oregon, I had a really good receiver coach, John Ramsdale. And then in Cleveland, I had Richard Mann. And those guys were like stepping stones to Al Saunders because Al Saunders just took my game as a wide receiver to a whole nother level. And it really not only increased my belief system, but it just put me in a position where I could become a starter and I could be an every down player and I could learn those little nuances that really help a wide receiver be expected or be, to be able to play consistently at a high level. But yeah,
right.
so much respect for him. And I told him, I said, I was always impressed with you. I said, because you didn't even play wide receiver in the NFL. And I was like, man, I've learned so much from you, you know?
Right. I mean, hey, that sometimes, coaching is somebody's calling, who didn't have it physically. I'm not saying that's Al Saunders, but everybody has their gift. And obviously, he passed his gift along to you. And I'll tell you what, it puts you in a great position, and my respect to you, and taking all the adversity and the challenges that were put in front of you. I actually tore my ACL when I was in high school, and I had to come back from that injury as well. So it is one of those things. You're right. It can take you either direction, and it's nice to hear that. Hear your story of success after all the adversity that you've been through. And the adversity, I do want to ask you, when you first came in the NFL, and we'll talk about adversity here. You went to Cleveland and then the Cowboys, and I'm not really sure what happened with either of those. Maybe you can explain that to me. But what led you to come to Kansas City and back to Marty Schottenheimer?
So basically, when I was in Cleveland the whole first year, I'm on IR, getting healthy, learning and watching, the veterans. And then that next fall camp, I went through camp. And I was, Rick, I was probably about 80%. I wasn't 100%, but I went through camp. I had a pretty decent camp, and I thought I was going to make the team. I did not make the team. I was the last wide receiver cut. I immediately got calls from Kansas City, Detroit, and Green Bay. And all three teams I flew out to, all three teams I flunked their physicals because I had swelling in my knee. Right. So think about this. Within 5 days, I was rejected by 4 NFL teams.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so think about your worst week. That's kind of week it was for me. And so I go back home. I continue to rehab and work out. Then the Cowboys call me, and I sign with the Cowboys. Jimmy Johnson puts me on the practice squad. He says, hey, we're just going to get you healthy, and when you're ready, you're going to play. So I practiced the entire year. I never get in a game. And when the season's over, Jimmy says, I don't think you're going to be able to play in the NFL, so we're not bringing you back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's another setback and rejection. So, but I didn't flinch because I knew that if I got my knee right, I could make it. And so I went back to work, really putting in the work. And I said, because now I'm going into year 3, this is my last shot. And so I had a couple teams after me, and Marty called. And as I looked at the Kansas City Chiefs, there was 2 things that stood out. One, Marty was there,
right,
and I felt he was going to give me the most fairest opportunity. And the other thing was the Chiefs lacked speed on the team.
Yes, you were right.
Great receivers, but they didn't have speed. And I thought, here's something I could bring to the team. And so signed with the Chiefs that offseason, had a great, mini camp and offseason and training camp, and I got cut. And a lot of people don't know that. Marty did cut me, but Marty said, just stay put. I'm getting you on this team. And it took about 2 weeks, and he cut, I think it was Pete Manley, and then he activated me, and the rest is history.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. And I'll tell you what, obviously, you know how dear Marty Schottenheimer is to Kansas City, and probably your life as well. But it's interesting to hear, from a fan perspective, because I'm ultimately a fan of the Chiefs, number one. And I tell everybody I'm a fan, number one. But just to hear you say, Marty called me and, I'm going to get you on the team and did this and did that, just to hear your personal perspective, fans love that and they need that. And this is a breath of fresh air to me and a lot of people, just to hear your personal story of this. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me tell you something else. Here's something very personal. So that second week, I had not been signed yet, and I started getting a couple of calls from teams, and I promised Marty I was going to wait 2 weeks. And my wife was like 3 months pregnant, and we hardly had any money because I basically, used the money from the year before. I didn't make a lot of money the first couple of years, so I can remember Rich having $250 in my account.
Wow.
We paid all our bills, and I remember calling Marty and I said, Marty, hey, I got to get on a team. I have no money. My wife is pregnant. And Marty goes, okay, come to my office. So I go to Arrowhead to see Marty. Marty pulls out his wallet, and he gives me $200. And he says, will this get you through the weekend? And I go, yes.
Wow.
And that weekend, they ended up cutting Pete Manley. I got signed on Monday, and like I said, the rest is history. But see, those are the little things that people don't know about the heart of, a coach like that who was really committed to me and my family, and it's just something I would never forget.
And that's amazing. And those are the moments that, to me, show people what the NFL truly is all about and what it means to be within the Chiefs organization, and what a huge heart Marty Schottenheimer has and had with his team. I mean, he treated you like family. And I assume that was the same, for every other player on the team, and his love for Derrick Thomas. And that's one place I want to go with you. And I know this is a sensitive subject for anybody who ever talks about it now, because there's such a great love for him. What was some of your great memories? What was one of your favorite ones that you can remember that you just, when you think about Derrick Thomas, that's it,
I think for Derrick, the thing that the thing I don't forget about Derrick is that Derrick was not a guy who liked the practice. He was not into practice. And it always marveled me how Derrick was just kind of take his time through practice and just kind of go through the motions. And then when it was game time, when the lights came on, there was like a whole nother level of performance that would come from who knows where. I mean, he was such a gamer. And at the highest level, practice is like our game day. That's where you perfect your skills. But
right.
Derrick could just kind of go through the motions. But when it was game time, Derrick would show up and he would produce consistently.
He was something else. I will say that he was a monster, and he's held deeply in everyone's hearts. But I guess it's one of those things. And this is a big question too. When you practice with an NFL team, and you being on multiple NFL teams, how much time do you actually share with the defense and special teams? Being on the offensive side of the ball, I feel like I don't know what the right word would be, but I feel like you guys are pretty closed off to offense, defense, and special teams.
It's kind of, there's times when you're separate and there's times when you're together. Obviously there's team meetings, and then there's separate offense and defensive meetings. And then when you're on the field, there's times when you're separate and doing your offensive drills and your defensive drills, and then you come together, So you didn't spend a lot of time together, but you still had those drills and 1-on-1 and 7-on-7 and team where you were together as a team. So
right.
You always realize, even though you're on offense, defense, and special teams, we're all one team working towards a common goal.
Right. Absolutely. So, I've watched a lot of your videos on YouTube. And by the way, Chiefs Kingdom, go check out JJ Birden's YouTube page, and I'll give him some time here towards the end to promote some of his platforms, because he's doing some great things. But check some of this stuff out. He's got some really great content. But on your YouTube page, I noticed that your greatest, your favorite thing that you'd ever done in the NFL was play with Joe Montana. You mentioned that was your highlight. And you took part in, one the best Monday Night Football game to ever be played, ever. And so many different occasions, as you walked all the way through with Joe Montana and the Chiefs. And how was that? What was that like, taking passes from Joe Montana and being a part of the legacy of him coming to Kansas City, and you how many receiving touchdowns? I mean, I want to know everything about you and Joe Montana.
Yeah, that was really exciting, and I always share that with people. That was one of my highlights, because I've never made it to the Super Bowl, so what's the next best thing? Well, playing with, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. A guy you watched in the 8th grade.
Right.
You know, I'm in 8th grade. He's throwing touchdown passes in the Super Bowl. So
right.
It was a thrill, but Richard, it was a shock. You know, it kind of freaked me out a little bit because I'm in a huddle with Joe Montana, and it just took me some time to just accept that and be comfortable with it. But I quickly learned that success leaves clues, and meaning that there was a reason why Joe was one of the greatest. And I watched him like a hawk, and I thought, what can I learn from him? And I learned a lot within those 2 years, just his preparation, his discipline, his ability to perform under pressure. You know, he was such a student of the game that it made me lift up my preparation so that when Joe is changing plays and whatever he sees, I got to see what he sees so we can be on the same page. So it definitely took my game to another level.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's great. And that's what it's all about is, you know, you see playing with Joe Montana as a career highlight, but also, you know, it's a time to be studious. You know, it's a time to soak in knowledge. And, I mean, how could that not lift your career, you know, taking passes from a guy like Joe Montana? But at the same time, you know, you look what you did for him, you know, in his time at Kansas City. You know, that's equally as respectable because, you know, without JJ Birden, there wouldn't be Joe Montana passes in Kansas City. And some of the best plays that, you know, I've seen in my childhood, it's just, you all were a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, one of the greatest compliments he gave myself and Willie Davis after the first couple of weeks of practicing, he said, and no disrespect to Jerry Rice, because Jerry Rice is the greatest to ever play, but he said that you guys are clearly faster than Jerry Rice. I have to get the ball up faster because you guys will outrun my arm. And, you know, and I understood what he was saying because, you know, we're 4'3" guys and we could both take off the field. So that was really cool to hear him say that he's got to adjust his style of throwing because we're just so much faster than what he's used to, you know.
And you already know the comparison, you know, without him even saying it, that it's Jerry Rice. And just to be taking passes from Joe Montana, be mentioned in the same sentence as Jerry Rice. But, and, you know, this is just my standpoint. But you're JJ Birden, you know, you are an NFL player. You know, but it's just, I'm sure there's some awe moments as well, even being an NFL player.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I tell a story on one of my keynote presentations how the first time I was in a huddle with Joe, and I kept saying to myself, that's Joe Montana. You know, I was like, that's Joe Montana. It was just, I was in awe of him. And then the very first play, I remember we ran X-Hook was Joe's very first play in practice as a Kansas City Chief, and it was coming to me, and I was so excited. I get on the line, and you go 12 yards and turn around. And I get 10 yards, and he hits me in the back of the head with the ball. This is his first pass to me.
Wow.
And Willie Davis and I look at each other, and Joe's like, come here, kid. He goes, I don't wait for you to get open. I've already read the hole. I throw it before you get there, so get used to getting your head around faster.
Wow.
And I just thought, out of all the quarterbacks I've played with over the years, no quarterback had ever said that or took that approach to where he throws it way before you're ready to catch it. So it made me, again, focus more as a receiver, get up to the top of the break, get my head around faster, and lock in on the ball because, you know, Joe's going to throw it quickly.
Right. And like you said, there's a lot of speed on the Chiefs at that time, which you also noted had been lacking. And it was great to have you as an asset and to hear this. And I got to ask you, did you and Willie Davis ever, you know, go to the side and be like, that's Joe Montana? Like, are you serious?
Yeah, we did. We really did. But we had this frustration because we were a little jealous because our offense wasn't designed to throw the ball as much as what they were doing in San Francisco. We ran the same offense,
right?
You know, because Paul Hackett came over, but we just didn't really throw it as much. So for us, you know, catching 40, 50 balls was a big deal in the offense back then. It would have been nice because Willie and I both thought, okay, we're going to catch 70, 80 balls. We're going to have a chance to make the Pro Bowl, but the offense wasn't designed to make that happen at the time.
It was Marty ball.
That's right. It was Marty Ball.
It was Marty Ball, and that was, it was run heavy, and you had another veteran there in the backfield with you and Marcus Allen coming over from the Raiders and tearing it up with Kansas City for a couple years. And what was it like for him? I bet that was a story too, quite like yours, where he had some revenge. I know that he had something to prove to Al Davis coming to Kansas City. And what was that like? Did he kind of vocalize that at all to you or anybody?
He did. He was very vocal about Al Davis and that whole situation. He even told us a story that when he got drafted, that Al Davis told the coach, "That's your guy," So he basically confirmed that he didn't even really want Marcus, which is hard to believe. So, and he shared just times when they weren't utilizing him, and they were, just doing some really odd things that baffled me, that you would not play one of the best running backs of all time. So when he got to KC, he couldn't wait to prove them wrong and show them what they missed out on. And Marcus obviously went on to have some awesome years for the Chiefs.
Yeah, so he had plenty of gas left in the tank, and that was obviously a personal thing with Al Davis and and Bo Jackson. There's a lot of different things that went into that decision, and I'm glad he came to Kansas City, and that really just kind of solidified what I would say Marty was trying to build as far as the offense and make it a push for the Super Bowl, because I believe in has 96 or 97 Sports Illustrated, dubbed Kansas City as the number one favorites to go to the Super Bowl before the season started.
Yeah, that's right. That is right. Yep.
And so, I mean, as a player of the Chiefs, to see that, I'm sure that even skyrocketed your confidence even more going into the season.
It really did, and I think what helped was when Joe joined the team. We knew we were only missing a few players, and Joe joined us, and Marcus joined us. And I remember that very first game against Tampa, just the way we flowed and the way we performed. Mm-hmm. You knew there was something different about this team, and throughout the year, when our backs were against the wall, or we only had a minute left on the clock, where you didn't know if we had the ability to drive down the field. Well, every time you looked to the right and you saw Joe Montana, you knew it was just a matter of time for us driving down the field, because our leader had been there, done that multiple times. We just had to follow his lead and do our job. And that first year was so exciting, because for me to get to the AFC Championship game during my 9 years, the only time, it was such a thrill. And I remember when we won in Houston, Willie Davis and I were talking because we were so excited. And I thought, man, what about when we win in Buffalo? What is that going to be like?
Yeah.
So we went into Buffalo. We're going to win this game.
Yeah.
And obviously Joe got hurt, and that kind of changed the outcome from there.
Gosh, that was a tough game to watch. I remember that as a kid too. I do. Gosh, that's. I'll tell you what, but to even be able to be in a position to make it to AFC Championship game with the Joe Montana-led team and everybody that was around you, that had to have been one of the most amazing experiences ever.
It really did. And the thing I remember the most was coming home after that Houston game, how many Chiefs fans were at the airport. I could not believe it. I'd never seen so many fans at the airport. And when we got off that plane, it was something special. We were so grateful for the fans to come out there and support us and welcome us home.
I'm really excited that you brought that up, because I have to say, as a kid, I'll never forget that, because I was on my mom's shoulders in the airport welcoming you guys back home.
No way!
I was, yes. I'll never forget it. It was a great experience. It was so packed. I'll never forget. I was on my mom's shoulders, and one of the fans kept stepping on my mom's ankle. She ended up hurting her ankle while we were there, because it was so packed. But I mean, I couldn't make that story up. But it was an amazing experience. And yes, like just the embrace. That's when you knew Kansas City had really, really embraced the Chiefs. But I think it was that moment, that you it got to experience that really was the start of it.
Yeah, and that's why I kept saying, well, what is it going to be like next week?
Yeah.
What is it going to be like when we beat Buffalo? Because, like I said, we had confidence that was certainly possible.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, the the way things played out is the way they played out. But hey, that was a heck of a run, and we loved every second of it here in Kansas City. And realistically, I mean, I might as well play a few sound bites. I mean, I'm sure this never gets old, but let's hear a few, Montana to Birden touchdowns here.
Birden 7, back to pass Montana, sets up, pocket crumbling, Montana winds up, arches a spiral down the near side, over the shoulder, cut to the 10 by JJ, touchdown! Another fantastic finish. Montana takes the snap, back in the pocket, 5-step drop, looking for the end zone, JJ Birden, touchdown! 9 yards deep for the end zone, and the Chiefs
Oh, man. So I got to ask you, how does it feel to still hear, Montana to JJ Birden touchdown? I mean, I still got to send chills up your spine. Oh, you there? Oh, I might have lost him. Hold on, let's get him back on here. Still there? Uh-oh. Where'd you go? We'll get him back on here real quick. That's all right, folks. Sometimes you have technical difficulties. We'll get him right back on here. No big deal. Sorry about that. Hey, but what do you think so far? It's really nice getting to touch base with JJ Birden and ask him some personal questions that, typically you wouldn't get a chance to. JJ, you there? Whoops. Hey, sorry. I don't know what happened. Let me turn off your highlights there. I thought... Yeah, so I don't know how we got disconnected, but I'll tell you what. I have to ask you, what is it like, hearing... Hey, this is JJ Birden catching a touchdown pass from Joe Montana. Does that still send chills up your spine listening to the highlights?
Yeah, it really does, and it's so interesting because when I watch the highlights, my first reaction is like, man, I can't believe I used to do that. Like that was so long ago. It was a different world, but, it still gets me hyped. It still gets me fired up, and I'll tell you, I'm a keynote motivational speaker, and a lot of times I will watch my highlight tape before I go speak because it just gets me fired up, and ready to go out there and do my job.
I could see that because, and I will say this is one thing that you and I have in common. I do motivational speaking myself, and so I make motivational videos and all that stuff. But that's something that it almost fires me up to hear my own motivational videos. It's like I'm subliminally talking to myself. When I do these videos in the first place, and so I can understand. Your self goals that you achieved being your motivation. I mean, that's I wish that everybody had that mindset.
Yeah, I hear you.
And so, but it's. I love the fact that you're doing the motivational speaking. That's something else that I saw. The keynote speaking is really great. You're making an impact, and using your platform for something great, and that's special. And so, look, we'll talk about that a little bit more. I know I'm running out of time here with you. I don't want to keep you too long. So I'm sure with all the quarterbacks that you've played with, what, if anything, do you see that Mahomes needs to work on to improve his game?
I would say, I think the simple answer is it's going to happen naturally because you think about this, he's only in his third year. The first year he didn't play. He just watched. And last year he came out the gate. Obviously he had a great year. The next year, defensive coordinators start getting a little smarter. They start realizing, okay, what are, defensive packages that he struggled with. So they start creating game plans around what they see as his weakness. Well, what's going to happen is through maturity, he's going to get smarter, he's going to get better, he's going to be able to recognize what these defenses are doing better and then be able to, maximize those plays better, to be able to produce better. So I just would remind everybody that an NFL quarterback has a learning curve. There is a learning curve. It takes a couple of good years playing that position to where you get comfortable. So I see the progression will happen naturally. you'll see more improvement next year and the year after that. So, one thing we know about him, and I read something the other day that during his bye week, he was just studying the previous games, looking at the film, learning from his mistakes, making corrections. And that's the sign of a quarterback who is definitely going to continue to improve and continue to grow and who is not complacent. So he'll get better. He's heading in the right direction. I
completely agree. And, to be honest with you, it's a tough crowd here in Chiefs Kingdom. We're some sticklers. That's one of those things I've noticed that Chiefs Kingdom expects perfection, even though that's not you can't accomplish that in the NFL as much as we try to. But it's the truth. Chiefs Kingdom were really tough on our team. And with that, hey, what do you think of the Chiefs wide receiving core and the comparison to the rest of the NFL?
Well, yeah, I've been reading a lot about their receivers, and I would say really I love their receiving core. They got a nice variety of receivers, big, tall, fast, good quickness. The biggest thing, they just got to stay healthy. I mean, that happens to everybody. You got to stay healthy, and if you can't stay healthy, it's always going to change the flow of the offense. And unfortunately, Derrick is the main guy because defenses are building, defensive game plans around Derrick to stop Derrick. Right. And when Derrick's out there, they might be double teaming him, which allows opportunities for the other receivers. Derrick is so good though; he's still being double teamed. So the key is it's just staying healthy. And
yes.
I think it was Herm Edwards. Was it Herm Edwards? No, it was Tony Dungy who told me early in my career, he said, the best ability a wide receiver can have is availability. He said, take care of your health because if you're not on the field, it hurts us. So they just got to do whatever they can to take care of their health. And sometimes we can control that and sometimes we can't.
And that's very true. Freak accidents happen, but I will say, players like Sammy Watkins, sometimes you got to tough it out a little bit, and at times, taking care of your body, like you said, can change the whole outcome of you being on an injury report. So I'm with you on that one. We have to stay healthy, but as far as speed and talent, we're right up there in the league. The Chiefs are really doing a great job.
Absolutely.
So, what do you most enjoy about watching the Chiefs offense?
I like all the explosive weapons they have. Travis Kelce, that tight end is just a baller. I love the way he plays and he produces and he has fun. And then you have the multiple wide receivers who have their own abilities. The only question mark is who's playing running back, which is really interesting because the offense is flowing without a big name back. Which you typically don't always see. But with all those weapons, Patrick Mahomes has a lot of options, and that's what makes an offense very potent when you can't really dictate where they're going to go with the ball. And Patrick does a really good job of spreading the ball around.
He does. He has the phenomenal vision. And, we have receivers that are great about getting an open space and kind of camping where Patrick can get them the ball. And it's really nice for them to have a pulse on stretching plays out and creating their own plays. And, when there's a busted play, obviously, any play that lasts longer than 4 to 5 seconds is a busted play, and Mahomes is making it happen on his legs, with his arms. But, gosh, the receivers are so good of being aware of where the defense is and where Patrick Mahomes is, and they just have this flow that I haven't seen from the Chiefs since, you and Joe Montana. And that whole offense, there's just something special, and it's a lot of fun to watch. But there's been a lot of injuries on the team this year, and moving forward, obviously the Chiefs have the Patriots this coming up week. I've got to ask you, what do the Chiefs need to bring to the table to beat a Patriots team that's still led by Tom Brady?
Yeah, they have to. They have to bring the energy and the mental fortitude that they can beat the Patriots. I mean, first they got to believe they can beat the Patriots, and then they got to go out there and play with an intensity and a passion because, you know, early on in the year and last year, you know, we were blowing teams out, and it was a lot easier. Now that's not the case, so they really got to raise their level of performance. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the Patriots, even though they got this great record, they're not the Patriots of old right now. They're struggling, especially from an offensive standpoint. So,
right.
And they have to be thinking, you know, the bye week's over. Now we got to make our push. We got to make our push towards the playoffs because the best teams, they start that momentum about now and they take it into the playoffs. And so that's where we want the Chiefs to be. Create their momentum now and take it right on into the playoffs.
And I couldn't agree more with you. And you know, there has been some fans that, and I'm predicting a Chiefs victory against the Patriots, and there are a lot of fans who keep telling me, well, Tom Brady doesn't lose 2 games in a row. And you know, I'm here to say that at some point, Tom Brady is going to lose 2 games in a row. And I have a feeling that the Chiefs can pull it off.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So, look, we're going to get back to you a little bit before I let you go. I've kept you way longer than scheduled. I apologize, but this has been a lot of fun. Let's see. So let me get to here. Okay, so not only were you an NFL wide receiver, but you're also a published author. And like you said, you do keynote motivational speaking. Kind of touch base on your book, When Opportunity Knocks, and the Birden Report, and kind of give us an idea of what that's all about, and you know, what would a reader take home, you know, from reading each of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think as an athlete, you know, when I retired, I always wanted to utilize my knowledge to benefit others in some way. You know, I did some coaching, and, you know, track and football, and I enjoyed it, but I just didn't like that you were restricted on terms of who you could help, who you could coach. If you coach at one school, they didn't want you advising any other players that weren't part of their school, and I didn't like that, and I felt I had much to offer to others. So, you know, I decided to write my first book, called When Opportunity Knocks, 8 Surefire Ways to Take Advantage. And it's really about seizing the opportunities that come your way. Because I believe we all have goals, we all have dreams, we all have things we want to achieve. That to me is an opportunity.
Right.
And I believe I'm the poster child when it comes to taking advantage of opportunities, as I've already shared. And so it's like a blueprint. You know, here's the blueprint of success, how you achieve the goals that are important to you. And so a lot of my keynotes really revolve around that subject matter because I want to empower people to, you know, to be great, you know, to be the best of what they do. But here's what it's going to take. And through my experiences and the lessons I learned, I share certain strategies and action steps that, if applied, it can put them in a position to achieve those goals. And so the Birden Report is my monthly motivational newsletter on my website. So every month I'll write just some kind of motivational, inspirational piece to give to everybody, to inspire them to go out there and, you know, conquer the obstacles and go achieve their goals. So I really enjoy speaking because it allows me to touch the masses. I'm speaking from so many different audiences and just sharing the lessons I learned and, you know, hoping they can benefit from them.
And I'll tell you what, one of the most amazing things that you can do in life, no matter what, is help somebody else. Because I will say this, and Chiefs Kingdom, please soak this in, because there's more to life than football. And when you are doing positive things, and you're a good person, and you genuinely are happy, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. And the best feeling you can ever have is giving to somebody else. And it might be selfish, you know, thinking that way, but I will say, when you help somebody else, the feeling you get, you cannot replace it. So I thank you for, you know, giving back and sharing that, because number one, it's not easy to write and publish a book. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication, which you've obviously displayed throughout your entire life. And thank you for sharing that. And where can Chiefs Kingdom find a copy of When Opportunity Knocks?
Yeah, the best place to go is my website, because at jjbirden.com, when they come through my site, I can sign the book. So that's the best place to go, and I'll sign it to you, and it's a quick read too, and it's for everyone. It really is. I designed it for anyone and everyone, but the exciting thing is, as I'm in the early stages of working on book number 2.
Oh,
so
nice.
This message is going to be really cool, because one of the things that you know about me, and as you hear my story, I've always been the underdog, and I think everybody has been the underdog, and we're going to really focus on that message to instill in people that in spite of whatever the challenge is, whatever the obstacles, whatever the adversity, you can always win.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to share simple principles on how to be able to do that.
Oh, man, and that'll be perfect. I'll tell you what, I will be obtaining a copy of that book for sure. It helps, especially if you're trying to put out a likewise message. It helps to hear, the perspective of somebody with a mind like yours. And so, this is an opportunity for, people to really pick JJ Birden's brain and kind of see what makes you tick and your keys to success, which they can be anybody's keys. It's just their mindset and changing it and understanding there's opportunity all around them, even in the darkest moments. So,
absolutely.
So, that's awesome. That's something to absolutely be proud of. And I cannot wait for the next one to come out. I definitely will be obtaining a copy of that. And I have to. So you've basically been, building your brand, and this kind of goes right along with this. I'm gonna really glorify your brand real quick. Okay, if you were to be building a JJ Birden Hall of Fame, what would be the 3 things you would want to be remembered for by Chiefs Kingdom?
Oh, by Chiefs Kingdom. I think I probably, just one is kindness. I was always very kind to the NFL fans, and I say that because I felt privileged to be there. I wasn't some guy who was groomed since he was the age of 3 to play in the NFL, and I saw it as a privilege, and I took it serious every single day, but I always made sure I had time for the fans. I was always signing autographs. I was always talking to the fans, because I wanted them to realize that we're just normal people. Just because we play football does not make us better than anyone else.
Right.
We're normal people, and to this day, I still interact with the Chiefs Kingdom on social media, and I love it. So I would say kindness, and the next one I would say, as a player, dependability. I might only have been 5'10", 157, but you could count on me. If you wanted me to go across the middle, I'm going to do that. If you wanted me to go hit 260-pound junior sale, I would do whatever it takes to help our team win. And then the last one I kind of alluded to is, the underdog. I've always felt like the underdog. When you think about the NFL, how the average player is 6'2", 245. The average player plays 3 years, and I proved that you can outperform. You can achieve the things that people doubt you in, and I want people to understand that no matter what the goal is, what you want, you can always achieve what you want. But you got to be willing to have a plan. And you got to be willing to put in the work, because it's definitely going to take some work.
Oh, yes. And anything that you want good, it takes work. And that's definitely a part of the journey, and you got to be willing to take the road less traveled. But see, that's awesome. And every single one of those choices were selfless. And that just shows the type of person that you are. And please, I hope when I said, I want to glorify the situation, you didn't take that the wrong way. But I could never see you building a JJ Birden Hall of Fame. But but it's one of those things that, yes, in your mind, I want to know what the 3 most important things you want to be remembered by. Chiefs Kingdom, or remembered for by Chiefs Kingdom, and that's an important aspect. And I think, and you are. I don't know anybody, that remembers JJ Birden and thinks anything other than positive, about you or what you represent. And so that's great.
I appreciate that, and I think that's important. And then, and if I can inspire the Chiefs Kingdom, if I can inspire them to go out there and achieve their goals and be better parents and better fathers and better mothers and better in their business and better in their personal life, it's like you said, I'm all about how can I help other people achieve the goals that are important to them, because if you focus on helping other people, your goals naturally fall into place.
Absolutely, yes, and that's 100% right, and it's spreading your energy. And I won't even get into all that. I'll tell you what, I have podcasts about that, and maybe I can send you a link after the show because well, I'd like for you to check some of that out. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. I'm going to let you go because I made a post on social media, and I asked the fans if you could ask former Chiefs wide receiver JJ Birden any question, what would it be? And so I picked two of them out of the questions that were asked, and one of them was from Jason in Van Buren, Indiana.
Okay.
And he wanted to know who was the best corner or safety that you played against in your NFL career.
The best corner I played against, without a doubt, was Deion Sanders.
I figured you would say that.
Yeah, Deion Sanders. And I played against a lot of great ones. I mean, I played against Rod Woodson. I played against Steve Atwater. I played against, Ronnie Lott. But Deion Sanders was a whole nother athlete, a whole nother level of an athlete. And it was interesting because it's like when I played wide receiver, a lot of times I knew the guy that was covering me, I was faster than them. Well, when I was going against Deion, I could tell Deion was faster than me. And I remember we were playing him when I was in Atlanta, and I was studying, his last 6 games because we're playing Dallas, and I'm like, he's got to have a weakness. He's got to have a weakness. And I discovered a weakness in his technique. And so I decided at some point when we call this play, I'm going to run it on Deion. And we were on, it was 3rd and 3. We're on the goal line, and they call X slant, and the ball's coming to me. So I practiced this release all week, and I gave him this move, and I stuck outside, and Deion takes off outside, and I go, got him. And I plant, and I come underneath him, and I'm waiting for Bobby Aber to throw the ball. By the time he throws it, I go up to catch it, and as soon as I grab it, all of a sudden I feel this hand come over and knock the ball out of my hands, and I'm thinking, how in the world did he recover? And when I saw the film, he spun all the way around and planted and drove towards me, and I thought, no DB could make that play but Deion Sanders.
Wow. Hey, he was special, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And you know what? He was a talker on the field, but off the field, he was like one of the coolest guys.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. But I think the talking, and I could see that even on the field with how he was talking. Nobody hated him. You knew that's who he was, and he had every reason to have that persona. He was a whole other level of NFL player.
And he was trying to get in our head, too, and that was part of his game plan. And in one game we played him, I just decided I wasn't going to talk to him the entire game. And I said nothing to him. He trash talked the whole time. And at the end of the game, he goes, okay, JJ, you've got me, man. You got to say something. I said, what's up, D? And that was the only thing I said.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. He definitely had a mouth on him. But like you said, that was part of his game. You want to get in your head, and it works. I will say, I don't know, how it was with you, but you could absolutely tell against other players, it worked. He got in players' head for sure.
Yeah, I was never a trash talker because I didn't want to give a player more incentive to play harder than they already are. They're already going to give their best, and I don't want to give them any more motivation. So I just kept my mouth shut and did my job.
Yeah, hey, I could completely understand that, and I feel like that's exactly what I would do in that scenario as well. I'll prove it with my legs and my skills. So one more question here. Todd L. from Battlefield, Missouri asked you, what was it like to play in possibly the greatest Monday Night Football game ever played?
Yeah, that was certainly a thrill, and you have to understand, at that point, since I had been in KC, we had lost to the Broncos like almost every year, and it was the same way. It was us leading, they get the ball with 1 minute to 2 minutes left, John Elway goes down the field, and they would win every single time.
Right.
And the thing that I remember about that game was, we get the lead, and then they get the lead, we get the lead back, and then we fumble, and then they fumble, or they scored, and then we got something happen in there to where there was a couple of fumbles, and then we had the ball. with about a minute and a half left or something like that. And I remember going into the huddle, and for 1 second I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, here we go again, this situation. And then here comes Joe in the huddle, and all of a sudden I go, wait a minute. We got Joe Montana. This is, so right away it's just like, no, this is a different situation. And Joe came in the huddle with such confidence as a leader, and he just said, okay, guys, here's the deal. It is cold out here. Let's just drive down this field, get this victory, and go out of here. Get out of here. And the way he said it exudes so much confidence that it was like contagious. You knew that, okay, we're going to win this game.
Right.
And we drove right down the field and won the game. And so it was definitely a highlight, but it made a difference looking to your right and seeing that Joe Montana's leading this last drive with you.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. And, with all that confidence, and like you said, you knew when he said it, he meant it. And I think that everybody in the stadium knew he was going to do it too.
Yeah. It stepped up. It made you step up your game. You were like, okay, you need to do your job because Joe's going to do his. And like that very last play, what people don't know, the play was called X corner. The pass was supposed to go to me. And I got double teamed. They rolled two guys to my side. So Joe goes through the progression. He looks at me. He looks in the middle. And then Willie Davis is the very last person, and he makes that throw and throws it in the only place that Willie could catch the ball.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those are little things that he did that made a big difference in our games.
And and it was amazing. I'm sure I've seen that play 100 times, and that drive, and just to see the determination and desire, and at the end of the game, for him to thread the needle. That very last play he threaded that needle as close as you could, and there's not too many quarterbacks in the game that could make that throw.
Absolutely.
It was a great victory on Monday Night Football for sure. Great victory. So, okay, one more question here, and this is I've got a sixth grader. His name is Reese. Reese is a family friend of mine. He goes to Eastbrook Middle School in Van Buren, Indiana, and this is kind of something to reach out to him and all young football players, all the youth. If you had any advice for any of those kids, playing youth football out there that have dreams of playing in the NFL, what would it be and why? Coming from JJ Birden.
I would say, first thing I would say is listen to your coach. Remember your coaches are there for a reason. They have experience. They understand the game. They're great teachers. They are going to teach you things that are going to benefit you, not only from a personal standpoint, but also from a football standpoint. So, listen to your coach. You can learn so much from them. The second thing I would say, and this one is probably a little controversial because things are different now, and I'd say do multiple sports. Don't specialize. That's one of the pet peeves I have of today is that kids today, many are specializing, meaning they're doing one sport year-round. And I just think it's an advantage back in our day. We did multiple sports, which really had a benefit from a physical standpoint, a coach standpoint, a confidence, competitive standpoint. So I'd say do multiple sports. And the last one I say is have fun. Have fun. Just enjoy the times that you're playing because these are memories you're going to have for many, many years. And remember, it's not the NFL. There's no money involved. There's no pressure. Just have fun. Enjoy the times that you have right now as you're competing.
Yeah, and God, what a great message, coming from, one of the great Chiefs receivers, cutting it up with Joe Montana and company. Great message. Obviously, you can tell, JJ, you're a great person that has a clear vision, and you really just want to give back to the community. And I feel like, when you've reached the level of success that you have, you should turn around and pull the next person up. And at some point, that's really the only thing left to do, because that's really, what makes this world go round. So, JJ, I appreciate everything from you. I appreciate you being on the show today. Is there any promotional stuff or anything that you would like to say, before I cut you loose here?
No, I would just say, as we talked about, go to my website, follow me on social media, interact with me, pick up my book, and sign up for the Birden Report if you want to be inspired. But no, just love to connect with everybody, and just, let's enjoy the rest of the season and see our Chiefs finish strong.
Absolutely. Hey, I still have aspirations that, the Chiefs season is going to finish with a Super Bowl. It's still very much within our reach, and hey, I think that everybody in Chiefs Kingdom agrees that's the apex. That's what we want. So,
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I think that this bye week is the beginning of their sprint. As long as everybody can stay healthy, I think we definitely have a legitimate shot.
Hey, did you hear that, Chiefs Kingdom? JJ Birden said it himself. Hey, we're still in there, so everybody relax. We've got, like you said, I feel the same as you. We're all right going down the stretch. We're going to pick up that momentum. I think that Darwin Thompson is really going to do something special here towards the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, JJ, it was really nice having you on Kingdom Radio. You're welcome back anytime. It was a pleasure having you on, and I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and just, keep spreading your positive message. So, nice work.
All right, bud. Well, we really appreciate you. You have a wonderful day. Folks, that is JJ Birden here on Kingdom Radio. We are happy to have him. Hey, tune in. We're going to have a few more shows this week, and we got a game coming up this weekend. So, Kansas City, you have a great evening. Thank you for joining us. JJ, you have a wonderful night yourself. All right. Well, he is already gone. But Chiefs Kingdom, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. That was JJ Birden. You heard it first from JJ, and what a story he has. He's continuing to make his mark and build his platform. He really is something special, and it was a treat to have him on. So, Kansas City, thank you. You have a wonderful evening, and we will talk with you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Kingdom Radio, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Chiefs.
The new State Farm Drive Safe and Save app could get you a discount up to 30% for good driving. But this State Farm radio ad gets you a 100% discount on this classic.
If I could drive safe and save, would higher rates pass me by?
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save.
Just save some tonight.
Discounts may vary. Not available in all states.
Frontier knows when you run a small business, you do it all. We get it. That's why Fios Internet by Frontier means business. With fast 100 over 100 meg upload and download speeds and a free router included for just $49.99 a month plus taxes and fees with a 1-year agreement. We're your guide to taking your business further. Visit frontier.com/Fios for business for complete offer details. Frontier. Don't go it alone. Limited time offer. Actual speed may vary. Installation, taxes, early termination, other fees and restrictions apply. Services are subject to availability and all applicable Frontier terms and conditions.